Louisiana farmers work just as hard as anybody, but to help the farmer do his job more efficiently, there's someone out there who works even harder than he does. We're talking about the bees, which pollinate the crops that farmers grow. However, bee populations have been on the decline over the last 2 years. Avery Davidson gets the latest on the situation with this week's guest. Avery?
Thanks, Mike. Over the last few years, beekeepers have seen a decline in the number of bees in and around Louisiana. Standing by with me is Dr. Dale Pole with the LSU Ag Center. Doctor, tell me a little bit about how bee populations are right now in Louisiana.
Well, the bee populations are starting to come back. We have some variations in what people are seeing simply because of weather conditions. We have areas where you've got very little rain at times and you don't see hardly any bees at all, and it's simply because they're looking for a better foraging site. And then you've got areas that are wet or watered on a regular basis or get normal rainfall patterns, and they see a lot more bees in those areas because the flowers have got enough moisture in them to produce some nectar, and the pollen is viable. The people just don't really understand how that works. It's a relationship between the plant and the bee, and you need one to have the other. If you don't, then you lose both.
I know a lot of people think when they think about honeybees, they think about honey, obviously, but honey is not the only important role bees play, especially for agriculture.
No, pollination in this state's worth about $400 million a year, and that includes vegetable gardens, grasses, trees, fruits and nuts, berries, wild berries that a lot of plants and a lot of animals eat, birds eat. And then the vegetable production and the fruit production in the state gets a lot of help from honeybee population.
Recently we did a story here on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture about the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry looking for Africanized bees, the so-called killer bee, as was popularized in much of the national media. And I understand that they did find a colony, or at least some Africanized bees, in LaSalle Parish. Any concerns that they've made it there?
No, it's just a matter of time before the Africans, get everywhere. The big thing is for people to remember that the first line of defense that they have is the wild population and the beekeepers in the area. As long as you have those, it's a good functional defense. There's not a lot of place for the Africans to come into. You start removing those bees and make people move bees, and it opens up the area to potential African populations coming in. And we've had African populations, and now I think it's 8 parishes. And we've not had any real severe problems from the Africans coming into the system. The big thing is for people to remember is bees can be aggressive no matter whether they're European or African, and if people will leave them alone, then in most cases the bees will leave them alone. Now, if somebody's having a problem, then I recommend that they call their local county agent's office, report the bees, and they'll report them to the Department of Agriculture. And if it's an aggressive type situation where people are constantly being stung, then they'll come out and evaluate the colony. If it's real aggressive, they'll probably take a sample and kill the colony because of its aggressiveness, and then have an evaluation run on the bees that they take in the sample.
So good advice there. If you leave them alone, generally they'll leave you alone.
In most cases, yes. I've got people that tell me, I've got this beehive in a tree and I'm worried about it. And I said, ma'am, how long has it been there? She says, well, it's been there for a couple of years. And I said, you cut your grass? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I said, are they bothering you? No, sir. I said, well, if they're not bothering you, they're probably not Africans, because the Africans have a greater tendency to, when you pass a lawnmower around there, or work a weed eater, or riding a lawnmower, or something along that line, they have a greater tendency to come out and let you know they're there. So people are concerned, and I'd rather see them a little bit concerned and be more aware of the bees and leave them alone. We have a lot of beekeepers in the state that if you've got a bee situation in some places, they'll volunteer to come in and help you remove them. So that's a list on the LSU website of beekeepers by location in the state, as well as the distribution of the African bees in the state.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Dale Pole. And for that list, you can always go to our website at www.twilatv.org. Well, stay tuned.